In Russia, gasoline prices have been frozen, which indicates the inability of the Russian government to cope with the shortage of automobile fuel using market methods. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine. According to the SVR, Russia has tightened administrative control over gasoline trading on St. Petersburg Trading Exchange, narrowing the range of price quotes from plus 0.5% to plus 0.1%. In addition, they have introduced limits on the number of applications and lots from one participant. It is claimed that these are supposedly temporary measures aimed at stabilizing the domestic market. Due to administrative interference in the work of the St. Petersburg Trade Exchange, a number of negative consequences are predicted. Firstly, the exchange will reduce trading volumes. Secondly, the exchange will lose its function as a price indicator. Thirdly, a grey market will develop. SVR believes that pressure on the fuel market in Russia will increase. The gasoline shortage will become even more noticeable, and the grey market will be of great importance. It should be noted that the gasoline shortage in Russia arose this summer due to the fact that many oil refineries reduced their capacity or stopped working altogether after drone strikes. The Ukrainian Armed Forces carry out airstrikes on oil refineries in the Russian Federation because they supply fuel to the Russian occupation army in Ukraine. For example, the Ryazan Oil Refinery lost half of its capacity after the drone attack. In August, it worked at 48% of its usual capacity. This plant plays an important role in supplying fuel to Russian troops. Previously, gasoline shortages were recorded in the Far East and in the temporarily occupied Crimea. However, in September, a number of other regions were added. Ryazan, Nizhny Novgorod, Saratov, Samara, Ulyanovsk, Penza, Rostov, and Astrakhan regions, as well as Kalmykia and Tatarstan. In addition, there are fuel supply disruptions in the Amur, Magadan, and Sakhalin regions, the Khabarovsk territory, Yakutia, the Jewish Autonomous Region, and Chukotka. Protests against local authorities have already begun in several Russian regions due to the current situation. The fuel crisis will further intensify the protests in the region. Caesar recalled his prophecy about how Putin would be overthrown. Recall, Caesar's real name is Maximilian Andronikov. He is the leader of the Freedom of Russia Legion. According to the Russian Volunteer, the Russian dictator would be carried out of the Kremlin on bayonets by those whom he once sent to fight in Ukraine. The fighter of Freedom of Russia assured that everything will be exactly like that. Caesar spoke about this during a conversation with Mark Fegin. A Russian volunteer reported how new fighters are joining the Freedom of Russia Legion. The Legion is growing steadily, including through former Russian prisoners of war. We launched this project several months ago, and more volunteers from those who surrendered are undergoing appropriate checks and quality training, not like in the Russian army, because they currently have a maximum of 3 to 14 days to train a Russian attack aircraft. Maximilian Andronikov predicted the inglorious end of the head of the Kremlin. Now, more and more fighters from the Russian army are specially switching to us. Even before joining the ranks of the Russian Armed Forces, they contact us through I Want to Live or through the Russian Legion bot. We help them switch to our side. It works, and it makes me happy, because, as I told my wife on the first day of the full-scale war in St. Petersburg in the kitchen, Vovochka will be overthrown with bayonets by those whom he sent to war to die. In the classic way, like 100 years ago, it will be so. Believe me. Earlier, Caesar predicted a worthy end for Putin, hinting at where the black swan would come from. For Russian volunteers, the war will end when Putin and his entourage are carried out of the Kremlin on bayonets, Caesar said. At the same time, the Freedom of Russia fighter noted that this event will definitely happen, as will Ukraine's victory, but not as quickly as we would like. Maximilian Andronikov explained why he decided to fight on the side of Ukraine. During the first day of full-scale operations, I came to the decision to go and defend Ukraine, to wash this shame off my conscience as a Russian. My whole family was in shock. They asked, "What will happen? Will Ukraine fall or not?" By the end of the first day, I saw information from open sources about which groups were going, and I said that this military adventure would end in defeat. And the second stage, I told my family, would be that Putin would be carried out of the Kremlin on bayonets by those whom he sent to war to die, just like in 1917. Do you know how he will act now? He will act on the principle of just a little bit more, just a little bit more. He sees that Trump is bending and dodging. He will try to slowly seize more, and then, quite possibly, he will raise the stakes to such a level that his system will collapse and break. This happens very often in history. The problem with dictators is that they do not see the shores, and they do not see the shores because they receive information from convenient people who shake their manes obediently, cannot tell the truth to the face. I repeat once again, Putin does not see the limits. It seems to him that if he presses a little more, Ukraine will break. Let him see that he himself does not break, and we will always help him. The Russian volunteer summed up, smiling slyly.